So, welcome everyone to second part, and let me invite our discussion guests. So, Yelena, Nora, Sergey, Ben, and me. Ah, choose your place. Yeah. So, for a second part, we decided to do a discussion roundtable, speaking about our experiences in microservices and monolith from various perspectives, ranging from business to technical one. So I think before starting the discussion, maybe let's do the introductions for everyone around who you are, just like in 2 sentences. So we can start from this side.
Yep. Hello. Good morning. My name is Elena Ansipova, and I'm the CTO at Vicemes Group, a fintech company, and we're working already for 13 years. So we have a wide experience working both with monolith systems, which were introduced 13 or even more years ago, and also we have experience currently working with microservices. So I will be happy to share this experience with you today.
Okay, so my name is, sorry, it was me.
I don't know.
So my name is Nora. I'm representing Signet Bank, and I'm here actually, so I'm the representative of that oldish legacy monolith system with all its drawbacks and challenges, and that's going to be, those points that I'm going to point out in this discussion.
Hi, folks. My name is Sergey Viskovskis. I'm leading, being CEO and co-founder of Indima investment platform. We are a regulated and supervised investment platform based in Riga, offering a new revolutionary discounted debt product coming from Spain. So we built our, I would say, technology core of the platform from scratch. So while building, we use both our proprietary front-end and back-end system and integrated a batch of microservices. So we'll share how it went and then what are the pluses and minuses of using the microservices.
Yeah, and I think me and Ben, we already introduced ourselves, so let's save some time. And let's go straight to discussion. So I would like to kick off first round of questions with business related, and I have a question for Nora. So can you describe from your business side perspective what kind of challenges you are encountering currently with your architecture, which is, as described, quite monolithic and old, and why you are looking for transformation?
I didn't say old. I said
Okay,
oldish.
mature.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so well, it's actually a good and decent system, stable. So it does what it's supposed to do. So that's a good part. But at the same time, we of course we do have experienced some challenges, and so actually currently a bit step back. So we are this difficult question is lingering around for us what to do next. So either we keep investing in this existing system and accept its probably some limitations, or accept these drawbacks that it has, or try to find some workarounds for it. At the same time, we do realize that the pace of technological development in financial industry is quite fast. So we do understand that at one point we probably might just not be able to keep up with it. And so the other option is to migrate to something else. But again, it also has a lot of painful moments. And so, well, speaking about those challenges, there are quite a lot of it actually, but the main that I would like to really point out is the difficulties or the lack of flexibility in development. All the developments, it's well, expensive, long, and complicated, and well, yeah, we as a bank, we offer a full range of banking services. So starting with simple current account, ending with complex financial instruments and all the deposits and lending and all the other stuff somewhere in the middle. And in addition to that, there's like risk management, financial management, AML, and all the processes. So it's the system, it handles quite a lot actually. So, and as I say, that if something is built for everything, it's no good for anything. Yeah, but I wouldn't be so harsh in my decision about my opinion on the system. But still, it of course, yes, it is so that it's good for some things, but it's complete rubbish for others. So yeah, so I'm really looking forward to this discussion. Maybe I can find some clarity afterwards, or if not, then maybe at least some things to think about.
For the audience, if you can you describe how much time does it take for you to bring new feature to market? In a months, years?
No, well, it depends, of course, but I would say, not years, not so bad, but but it's 6 to 9 months.
6 to 9 months from like start of development when the user can use it.
Yes. No, well, of course, it depends not only on the system, it depends on the team as well, and also the resources that we have, but 6 to 9 months.
Okay. And have you tried to estimate how much investment it would take you to completely switch to new architecture, or you're just at this?
Well, we are currently working on this, so that's why also we decided to take part in this discussion. That's why all this was so interesting to us, because we are currently looking at these options, and again, as I mentioned, all the services that we're having, it's not so easy to find a system which can actually cover all the functions that we need. Yeah, I know. But and also there are different moments that we need to speak about, and we also understand that maybe it would be some hybrid version, probably microservices or whatever we call them. But we also don't want to increase complexity too much, so that it's not too painful also afterwards to support it, to monitor it, not to increase a huge amount of resources that we need to for supporting it. So so that would be like summary of where we stand and what's with the situation.
Oh, all right. Yeah. So since we are digging deeper in this monolith architecture and the challenges, so I basically have a rough question for everyone sitting here in discussion table. So usually when a monolith is developed with a single team, and sometimes in extreme cases single person, so maybe you can share what kind of challenges this approach causes you. So Elena, we can start from you.
Yes, from my experience, there are different pros and cons for both approaches. So this looks very nice for business sometimes, that I have one person.
Yeah, it's very cheap. One FT.
I have this one contact point, so I can just ask him all the questions, and this one person will do everything. But then again, you cannot scale. So this scaling and this knowledge transfer, in case you need to enlarge your team, then this knowledge transfer is quite complicated. And also documentation, documenting microservices or documenting huge monolith system with describing all dependencies between the parts of the systems. So this is quite challenging. In case we're talking about development from scratch, then for sure, time to market, I would say that with microservices would be even longer, because you need to develop many independent systems. But in case you're doing something with like one system, where we need a proof of concept, we want to go to the market, and this will be faster, I would say. But this is, not strategic view, because later you will need to rework it, definitely. So, and also talking about the competences, it is you should always have a good architect in your team. That's true. But if you're working with microservices, this is really crucial to have this good architect. Otherwise, you will separate all the functionalities in the wrong way, and then it will be just a mess of many systems. But in case of monolith, it might live with a bit poor architecture, let's say, for a bit longer time.
So I guess maybe you have some insights from like more businessy side. What kind of risks having single team, single person causes you from business side?
Yeah, so basically for me it was like the first time we were building our proprietary monolith system. I mean, when we started in Dima 2 years ago. So I'd say the main retrospective which I could share is that everything goes to the working or putting input on the technical description because as I suppose Elena and Dora will agree, the most biggest nightmare for a development team is then when business sets the technical description and after 1 month they will starting adding like, okay guys, so we just had a good brainstorm, let's change the front. We didn't like how the front looks, we changed it completely, but at the same time development team is working on the backend and they, okay, well, you're great guys. So yeah, so I would say the main concern and the thing which you should stick to is working on the detailed technical description, which should be signed off by all the stakeholders, and only then it goes to the development team. And if somebody wants to change something, it should be really substantiated, and basically maybe the guy who is doing this, you could charge him a penalty from the salary if he gives such an opinion to change. Yeah. So then everybody are focused. Of course, joking. But on the other hand, the second success key is that when your core model is ready, then all the things, even of course during the development, there is some bits and details, and the devil is in the details, as we say. Then you should also create your own wiki. I mean the final description of the functionality, because and it should be in such a detail that if even some of your senior or team senior developers or your team leads change, each new person which join your company could have a read and understand what is inside of the bear, I would say. So yeah, so basically technical documentation, once again the technical documentation, and not going left and right during the development process. Otherwise, it's end up with additional months, hours, weeks of development, and everybody of us here knows that development team is one, or I would say the most expensive resource which a tech company has now.
Yeah, well, from my as a technical guy perspective, I would say having a small team or working alone as a man, so documentation, I do not see a purpose why I have to write documentation for myself if I'm the one reading it. So it's very hard for me while doing technical work also force me to write documentation, because if I'm only a consumer, why do I have to write? And technical guy, nothing demotivates more technical guy as pointless tasks. So this is logical change. So with larger team, you see that, yeah, there is a point people change. Another thing is that, one man orchestras, not always there are a lot of people who can be good on all layers.
I understand it's
and they tend to leave.
Well, it's completely what my CTO told me, that Sergey, I'd better work with the team rather than making the papers. But for us, I mean, for regulated business, you have audits on the audit. So basically, in case of Indima, we launch in June for beta investors, and we just launch the platform in September for the crowd, for everybody. And we already had like 3 audits. We had audit from the Central Bank of Latvia. We had audit from the like internal audit, like internal external audit, and new audit from Central Bank of Latvia is just starting now. So if you don't have the technical documentation, basically, especially in this year 2023, like for us investment services providers, I mean both banks and then platforms, etc. In EU level, like it's a top priority for ESMA. So ESMA is like European Security and Market Authority, like the main policymaker for all the EU, like the barbell where all of us are living and basically following all the regulation from EU. Then the top priority is checking that all the IT systems of investment services providers are compliant with all the regulation, because it was not a focus of the regulators during last years. So even if like I spent around decade in one of the largest banks in Latvia, like IT regulation, IT compliance was just like guys, let's like have some like paper on the shelf, like just to be and etc. Now it's really changed, because we see like a big risks and like imagine that one day, I don't know, the biggest banks which we could see here like on over the window like are attacked, and all money like it disappears, and like it will be a big pain, I suppose, for all the Baltics. So it's a top priority now. So the technical documentation really solves the problem when audits take place. You will not be able to pass the audit if you don't have a technical one. Even if you are like, I understand that like it's cost benefit for my team, which is not still like we're having like 20 plus like team for the whole Indimo, but of course like using resource of my CTO for preparing the documentation is not the great like business decision, but you need like adapt it. On the other hand, like of course we should understand that like we are or humans, like it could be like stone could you go and like some stone hits your head, and there is also like everything could happen.
Put a lot of papers.
Well, yeah. It's a matter of course, yeah, of execution. But yeah, so like people come, people go, and then everything could happen. So if you don't the technical documentation, it could be like for us, for investment services provider, it could be critical, because it's a critical infrastructure. Also, regulators say that technological base of the platform is a critical infrastructure, because even if all the board, I mean, all the team disappears, the platform will work for some while, you know. But if the technological base disappears, that there is nothing on the ground. There is like no company like left.
Yeah. Ben, maybe you can throw in a few cents from your journey, how to unravel these problems and solve them with distributing the approach from your experience.
People and documentation, you mean that particular area, or
no, just like this monolith, single team, single person problem, how can it be solved moving forward?
yeah, I think one person team is not a team, right? So team implies that there are at least 2 people, and I tried different approaches in my career. I think when I just started my career, we didn't have a lot of methodologies and practices, right? It just was emerging. We didn't talk about agile too much, but we were trying to do things as efficient as possible, and we had teams of 2-3 people doing specific initiatives and doing it end to end. And then we started to talk about agile and structuring teams with 2 pizza sizes from 6 to 8 people, and so on and so forth. Certain things worked, certain things didn't work. And interestingly enough, now I am switching back to what I did 20 years ago, and having small teams of 2-3 people focusing on individual capabilities and doing them to the point that they are usable. Right. So this is an approach that was introduced by a company called Basecamp, quite no company doing, let's say, CRM/communication platform. And they call this method Shape Up. I do recommend everyone to check it out. It's essentially about structuring teams as small as possible, right? Their idea is to keep teams as small as possible, but not one person, like 2-3 people. And doing documentation also in a lean way, really kind of decomposing a little bit a term documentation into very specific things, right? So if it's for compliance, looking into whether there are other ways to provide evidence to auditors apart from documentation, because the challenge with documentation is that it becomes outdated very fast, right? So it's like a code that you need to maintain. Your code evolves, your documentation needs to evolve. So it's a huge liability. You definitely should have it, but it's always a balance, right? So maybe you can also provide evidence with other things, especially now with automation and cloud. A lot of things can be proven differently, not just with documentation. And your truth, whether we like it or not, is not in documentation. Your truth is actually in the code, in automation scripts. That's what reality lives, right? So you may have an impression that you are super protected because you have a lot of documentation and a lot of papers. But if your code evolved since then and you have gaps there, you still have a problem, right? So that's one of the fundamental challenges, how to bridge that gap between the reality and documentation. So one of the suggestions, as I said, is to first decompose it a little bit and see what's the purpose, who is it written for, do we want to invest in maintaining it, or there are other ways to address the same. For instance, we follow a process, a combination of process that is called RFC, a request for comments, which is essentially before we start doing something big and we know that we need to solicit feedback from others, we put that RFC, which is lean. And the moment RFC, we solicited feedback and we decided to implement something, we know that this is no longer a maintained document. But then after that, we typically take architectural decisions that are important. So we document them separately, and we call this, it's not our invention, but we use ADR, Architecture Decision Record, where we record significant architecture decisions independently, right? And if they change, there will be a next ADR that replaces the previous one. So it's a sort of a lean approach to the same thing that Sergey was mentioning. And when team is small, you don't have to align a lot, right? So if as a team of 2-3 people, I need to write an ADR, I will write that ADR, I will share it with others, get feedback, and proceed forward, move faster. So
yeah, for me it sounds like even with documentation, the same principle. If we split the responsibility that each service write its own documentation, we do not overwhelm one person on top, keeping it up to date and writing to it, and also give specific purpose. So that's also kind of, instead of having 1 or 2 persons just constantly trying to catch up with documentation, we can basically distribute that load.
Yeah, and plus one other thing probably important to mention, these days there are approaches how documentation can be generated. Like certain things can live inside code itself that can be used then to create a proper document that can be read by a person, right? Architectural approaches like C4 and other things that really help you to generate documentation rather than writing it. And as soon as you generate it, you can really trust that this is aligned with what's in your code, right? It's real. It's not just.
But what I was always interested, what is the quality of it? Because this like self-documenting code, it's quite good, but is it for developers, or can I use that same auto-generated documentation straight away for these audits?
See, the idea here is that you still write that documentation, but it lives in the code. Means when you change the code, if you are diligent developer, you see that documentation that is just next to it is outdated. So you update it as well. It's like updating comments in your code, right? So then your documentation is not fully generated from by some AI or something, right? Which actually today, even that is available, but it's actually generated from the snippets that are provided by same people who write code. Sometimes it needs a bit of rework to make the language a bit better, right? If you want to show it to auditors, but it's already better than just writing it completely on the site independently. And with microservices, that's actually going back to our actual topic, right? With microservices, this actually works very well, because then you don't document one huge system, you document each capability independently. Your documentation evolves independently. It's easier to read it. It's easier to understand it, even for auditors, right? if we ignore for a second that it's important for colleagues that will join later, will need to understand how things work, even for auditors, if you just give them one big paper, well, maybe for company it's good because they will never read it, right? They're like, oh, okay, looks good. But but with small ones, they can actually read it and maybe provide even some meaningful feedback. Who knows?
Well, maybe to add on what Ben told, like from our experience, so about the external services and then the approach of regulator. So when we started, so basically, one of the key modules, I mean, one of the key microservices is the ML systems, which should be integrated. So one of them, like if we speak about like online investment platform as we are, then you're not able to open the branch, where like some bank clerk sits and then the accept clients open the account. So everything goes online smoothly in as a one-stop solution, and identification service is a key things that you should add. And like of course now there is a plenty of different like there is many services which offer the online identification. There many of them sit in Baltics. I would say Baltics is like maybe like some sort of very well developed here for such services. But anyway, what I wanted to say is that there was a dilemma which service to choose. There was like several services from Lithuania. There is also like several services from Estonia, and we choose the service from Estonia because some of the market players on the market in Latvia, which are regulated like in Latvia, had, because it was easier to sell out to the Latvian central bank, because for the central bank they are more clear. So they already checked like either their because still even we are all in EU and ML regulations are very the same. Still each regulator has its own, like I would say, sentiment what they want to see from this service. For example, in Germany, if we speak about German market, they don't accept identification as a selfie. They want to have the video interview with the agent. So BaFin will not allow you to use like the Baltic service which we have here. Yeah. So in terms of the regulation, yeah, you need to adapt also to the vendors which already went the way with your regulator. For them it's clear. Otherwise, like to try to otherwise, if you choose some new one, you should reserve like several of months of discussion with your regulator to prove them that this new vendor is good and fit.
Maybe from my side, one comment about documentation. We should here understand that there are different types of documentation. It seems like we have just messed it all together. So we have documentation which is for regulator, and in these terms, it is really easier to describe microservices because it is clear. Like you see microservices, you understand what the system is doing. And another thing is about documentation, internal technical documentation for basically for the team to work with it. Just because there are some services in which you might need changes once a year. You just don't remember how it was implemented. And or, for example, some changes in the team. You need to enlarge the team, or someone maybe left your team and you need to replace this person. And then it is much easier to work with microservices because there is much less magic happening in small service, and it is much easier to understand it for developer when he just is reading the code of one small system. It is much easier than to read the huge monolith code.
Yeah. And following this topic, since we spoke about regulations, microservices, so another one important thing, I would say, it's security. And when you are having monolith, from security-wise, you can just construct your perimeter around monolith. When we switch to microservices, suddenly we need not only to care about our perimeter defense, but also about security between our microservices. And in some cases, for example, like with Ben's case, maybe part of our system is third party, so we need to care about that. So maybe, Yelena, you can tell about, from your side, how do you strike balance between investing in security and developing new features? What drives you? Your startup, is it hard to balance security and development velocity, or
In our case, I will not reveal all the technical details due to security reasons. But I would say that from the security perspective, microservices has some advantages as well, because you have all your data separated. So in case you have this one monolith, okay, you have maybe less endpoints to protect, but then in case someone is getting there, it's all revealed. Yeah. So you're just getting everything what is there. You can get all the code.
I think main weakness is if you breach that initial defense, everything else it's like in front of your plate.
Yeah. And in case you're trying to protect each service separately, and even in worst case scenario, something goes wrong and someone has got the access to one of your services, maybe the impact will not be that big, because there is only isolated part of data, and in some cases this data will give nothing to the one who has got this access. So
but
there are some challenges also.
Yeah, but does this additional engineering overhead impact a lot your development speed? Or you would say that it is here, but it's not like main.
We are not using maybe that many external services. I mean, we're doing everything in-house. So we do not have any teams developing for us anything. So in these terms, we have still this parameter. And also we are managing our own private cloud. So this is not a problem as well. Yeah, so we have a bit maybe less challenges, and these challenges are not that much bigger if we compare with Monolith. Yeah, so, and in case we have all the internal communication between our services in this parameter, then it is easier to work with that. Yeah. So it's not that challenging, I would say.
Oh, okay, nice. And Nora, from your perspective, from business side, when developing on Monolith or transitioning, do you put security on a separate line, or it's just like integrated?
Security is on top of everything. So we banks, not all of us can, of course, but still banks, we are conservative and we are very cautious, sometimes probably overcautious. Probably my security, not my, but our company security people would not agree with me. But well, yeah, sometimes it is a bit again complicated to get something through to them. But yeah, so for us, security it's yeah, top priority. So it's also a burden. No, I can't say a burden, but it's a hassle that we have to also think about in this development process.
But does it sometimes put you in a situation where you have to choose a new feature or security, and kind of?
No, yes, but no. Well, until this moment, we still have found our ways how to handle both parts, like the development and the security. But yeah, definitely security is first. So that's why I was really eager to hear answers on this question. So if I understood correctly, then when we finalized on the documentation on the team, so microservices did win. So on security wise,
so far it's like looks like that microservices gives you a little bit more effort, but also in turn it gives you more security, since when you could get in traditional monolith. So at least from that side of discussion. So maybe Ben, you would like to throw in how cloud native systems
so
this balance.
Yeah, we can take it layer by layer, right? First of all, I fully agree with what Elena said, that microservices in general reduce attack blast, right? So if one service is attacked, others hopefully are not. Of course, for that, we need to design system in a certain way, right? And today, let's say the most common approach is so-called zero trust, where there is a zero trust, right? And everything needs to be authorized and authenticated, right? And services, when they communicate with each other, they need to authenticate themselves. When call comes from outside, it needs to be authenticated. And today there are technological, let's say, mechanisms or libraries that help with that a lot, right? So you don't need to implement it every time for each microservice independently. You just define it once and then can use for your entire architecture. Yes, you need to spend a bit of time designing this upfront, but again, you're not reinventing the wheel. There's enough patterns and practices in the industry how to do that well, right? With service mesh and other type of technologies that you just design once, implement, and then all your microservices will follow exactly the same approach. So that's one part. In terms of cloud native, as you mentioned, right? So again, cloud native can mean different things, but let's say we're talking about using public clouds. So
Yeah.
how public clouds are more secure than potentially private clouds, and no offense, right? I'm not saying private clouds are not secure, but how potentially public clouds are more secure is because there's economies of scale playing there, right? Vendors like AWS, or similar ones, it doesn't matter which vendor, they are facing challenges of magnitude of customers, right? So they are forced to continuously improve based on the feedback and situations they face from a lot of customers. When you are owning and building your own data center, you are limited to your own learnings. And whether we like it or not, in our industry, it's all about trial and error and failures and learning from these failures. So the more failures you have, the more equipped you are, right? The more you learned and the more you fixed. And if you are isolated, you don't have a chance to have as many learnings as public cloud providers have. So that's at least the philosophy that I believe in.
Was waiting to jump into this and to defend private cloud a bit. Anyway, you need to do pen tests. In any case, it doesn't matter how you're managing your infrastructure. And also, there is always this thing about knowledge. Everything depends on how good is your DevOps. You have set up your infrastructure in the public cloud. So you have too many options there now. So these products are quite complicated, and the person should have really good knowledge to not to open some ports, not to leave some backdoors. So it's also quite challenging to set it up correctly.
100%. I think it's, as I said, probably even more challenging than doing it on the public cloud. Right? So you do need to have expertise. You do need to have knowledge. You potentially need to use products that presumably can bring some similar type of accumulated experience from a good number of customers. So definitely there are ways to make private clouds very secure. It's just, yeah, it's.
But let's say you should have good specialists in any case in both public clouds or private cloud management.
So from technology side, if you have right people, they can make any system work. It's just that probably a question at that single moment of time, do you have right equipment, right money, and right people? And usually public cloud at least solves you that part, that they can cover you on resilient hardware and experienced people. So,
but I think it's important not to underestimate technologies that exist today to build private clouds in such a way that you don't reinvent the wheel. You don't start from scratch. You use a lot of knowledge and experience that comes with that. So.
Yeah, so even like working with Google, I see that most successful SaaS products, they eventually make some on-prem version for also to people to port back to have same experience we have in the cloud, same ease also on-prem. So it is definitely a trend. So Sergey's from CEO perspective, this is security concern. How does it impact your microservices startup?
Well, with a reference to what Nora said, that like 6-9 months. So for a bank, yeah, like it's fine. Like, but for a startup as we are, like, so you will die like in 6 months if you're adding new prods feature. Unfortunately, it's life of a startup. So you should balance on the I would say risk return. As investments, we say risk return approach. So you should be agile, you should be fast, and you should use the risk-based approach when adding new features. So otherwise, like nobody, I mean, in our fast-paced environment, nobody will wait. If Lena is faster, then the client will be there. I would say in terms of the security, our policy, our approach was to use and choose the vendors which have a well-established name, which like don't had like some minor security breach events or occasions. So I would say you should work with the vendors who are like top notch in their field. So it was our decision making when we choose plenty of them. So we work only with the leaders in that field. So we have some trust of that they're even maybe more upper security even we are, because like they're for decades in this market or like for decades. But of course, yeah, we also look into the cases which were on market, and you should bear in mind that still it could be like when shit hits the fan, and like one of the cases which makes a good knowledge. I will not name it, but it was from the crypto field. So one of the company which is almost the unicorn in their field, they were offering some sort of trading solutions to be added in crypto exchanges, and the security breach, the hackers used their keys, API keys, integration with the exchanges, and basically swapped all the money of investor from their crypto accounts using the API trail. So API is good solution. I would say it's it's.
If you don't store keys in public place.
Sure. So I would say API is the best invention I would say in my sense it's the best invention, and it really helps the technology companies, the technology startups to scale up. Otherwise, if I would need to create basically our core is basically all the modules which we use. It's really a bank. So we're really a bank, and if we need to go with the approach which you have in a bank, that you create like mainly all the proprietary. Like you need like 5-10 years to create everything by yourself, and the costs are huge. So like if you check with new banks which were like coming to the market, the like initial investments to go live with a bank with a banking license go up to 10 million euro. Like you need to have 10 million in equity to go to the market. Of course, if you have the startup fintech project, you don't have such a lot of money to go out to the market. So microservices help you, but of course you need to bear in mind that you need to use the best vendors which are on the market, which have a good track record and so on.
Yeah, or even like outsource some of your functions for a while if you see that developing them takes too much, like KYC you mentioned.
It's like, I suppose it's even not a like logical step to make it by your own, because you will not be competitive in the market, because these guys are focused like on this particular area. They're the best there, and it's like doesn't make sense for you to compete and adding the feature because you will not be perfect as they are, because they focus on that concrete feature.
Plus, it will not move the needle for you, as we say, right? It's not going to create any differentiation. Even if you will be as good as they are, all you will get to is the same level as they are, right? Okay, maybe you will create a better AML, but as an investment company, it's not going to make you a better investment company, right? Or better bank. That's also a reason why we exist, right? Our philosophy is exactly about that. How can we help with things that are not moving the needle for our customers, but are required, right? Without that, you cannot really compete today. And at the same time, give everything our customers need to build what does move the needle for them, but without.
So very provocative question.
Yeah.
If I want currently, is it possible for me to create a banking startup and have just only web developers and marketing and buy everything else from components?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. And we've seen that actually working many times, even before I founded Plumery. We've seen that at Mambu many times where people could just assemble things from existing technologies today. As a bank, look, things are more or less standardized today, right? Yes, you want to differentiate, but before you know how you want to differentiate, you can already launch with what's more or less expected. Talking about regular banking functionality, right? I'm not talking about specific products like maybe investment or something else, but if we're talking about retail or SME banking, 80% of what's needed is standardized, and then it's a creativity to differentiate yourself with the rest of 20 plus, of course, banking products themselves, attractive rates, and so on and so forth. That goes without saying. So yeah.
And also one thing talking about developing something for startup. Let's say example with lending. For a startup right now, if someone would want to start such a company, it is really no reason to start doing things on their own, because in our case, for example, we're a very specific case in such terms, because we're working for quite a long time already. So, and we have this experience with changing markets, changing products. We have seen how regulation changed. So we have quite a big experience about what could be there. And in case now we are reworking our architecture, introducing microservices instead of monoliths, we have this product experience. We can leave this place there in the microservice. We can not implement some features right now, but we know what we should think about and where we should leave this place for some future developments. But yeah, doing things from scratch now for a startup, have your own development team. And this is, yeah, just like inventing something what is known for many years already.
Yeah, I will confirm to what Elena told, that like now it's like today in our community, in listeners, there is also like young entrepreneurs, and they have a great chance like now to run their like basically they have ability to run start their like financial or investment business without huge investments needed. Because basically what you need now to be successful, you need like three things. So you need the team, I would say, idea, and the product. If you have all these, everything else is just the technicalities. And with microservices, it's really you are able to start like startup like with a quite small seed equity, and it is a great opportunity. So like everybody could if like he could set up a good company, invent good products, then he could like go live and then go MVP and like get to the business.
Yeah, so since we are out of time, I would say whole summary of our discussion can be put into one simple sentence. Microservices allow you to innovate like a startup and deliver like enterprise.
Correct. Yeah.
Very good.